Hi, this is BK Black Krishna from manforwars.com, where I'm promoting polite patriotism to help nice ladies and gents teach kids, look, talk, and feel great, and locally discuss and share lots of great info they find online, offline, as nice, helpful people making more. Leaving comments or online, or talking to strangers online, or talking to robots online with emojis and having all that be controlled by algorithms and AI, that's one thing. But actually being able to respect each other and discuss what you learn online as nice, helpful people is ideal when it comes to our present and our future. So manforwars.com for more on that. And on that note, this video is called WhatDoesItMean.com. Great intel on Trump, nationalism versus globalism, Christianity, and much more. And WhatDoesItMean.com is one of my favorite big picture websites. When you want to know what the big picture is. I'm not saying you should believe everything they say or everything anybody says, but there's a lot of good stuff there, and they find a lot of information and analysis that you normally wouldn't find other places. I don't know if they got some Google or Super Google or whatever. But whatdoesitmean.com, also known as Sorcha Fal, SORCHAFAAL, you can search for. They're a website that's basically supposedly run by a bunch of Russian Orthodox nuns that are very pro-Trump, pro-West, pro-Christianity, pro-freedom, and pro-getting valuable intel out there that can help us all deal with globalists as nationalists around the world. So take it with a grain of salt, but what you'll find there, I hope, impresses you. It says here, the news you need today for the world you'll live in tomorrow at whatdoesitmean.com. And you can see when it comes to the website, there's a bunch of articles here. These are all hyperlinks to articles. And there's a bit of information on the organization. And there's a bit more. And then if you go below that, they've got top world news from a bunch of countries, including America and many, many others, where they and their team find really, really interesting articles to share with the world, including things like in Japan, suicide among 10 to 14-year-olds is massively up. Julian Assange may or may not be evicted from Ecuador. Donald Trump to deliver a keynote address at NRA meeting. China, U.S. hopes North Korea's Kim does the right thing on nuclear weapons in Parliament speech. That's what China's reporting on. Germany, the European Union, and so on. And even Iran, Venezuela, Brazil, Cuba, Mexico, the United Nations, India, Pakistan, and so on. So it's a very comprehensive website. And basically what they do is, by their own admission, they take Russian foreign intelligence reports that are supposedly public or semi-public, at least parts of them. And they also do a bunch of other Googling or use whatever search engine they have, and they come up with a bunch of really good analysis. Now, I know there's a bunch of Russia-phobia out there. Russia's supposedly attacking us. Russia's working with Donald Trump. Russia's this, Russia's that. Well, the Mueller probe is over, proved that there's no collusion between Russia and Trump. In fact, Trump's actually pushed himself further away from Russia to battle the perception of any possible collusion, but there was never any to begin with, and there hasn't been any, and that may have been a good tactical move, sort of protecting Trump, and even Putin in Russia could be stronger to his own people, seeing that America is, instead of a friend, sort of portraying Russia as an enemy, and is therefore possibly an enemy itself, America. And that makes the people rally around their leaders. So, you know, there could be some negotiations there saying this sucks, but I'm glad that we can move past this. And I'll give you an example. One of the articles here from April 4th, 2019 is Democrats erupt in hate-fueled rage after Trump loyal forces capture Obama citadel of power. And so basically, in Chicago, basically this article is about how the Democrats are freaking out because somebody who is loyal to Trump has been elected mayor of Chicago, and Chicago is traditionally a corrupt Democratic stronghold. So Obama was from there. Obama went from a community organizer to a senator. He had people pull a bunch of strings to make sure nobody could run against him. And as a puppet of the elite, he was quickly ushered with very little experience into becoming the president of the United States and the first black president and all that sort of thing. He was really a puppet. All that stuff on the outside. He's black. He likes sports. He seems like a good guy. I like to say I like him because then people will like me. All that masks the fact that most people who like him don't know what he did for 8 years, can only basically say things like healthcare, but really didn't pay that close attention because he was meant to be a salesman for the elite, the New World Order, the globalists, the subversion of America, as opposed to somebody who you really studied closely for all their good and bad qualities. So that was Obama, but if you look at this article, it's got a ton of hyperlinks here. So it's not just punditry, but it starts off here, a very interesting new Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that's Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs report, circulating the Kremlin today, noting how German manufacturing collapse is about to drag the entire European economy down with it into the abyss, with a hyperlink to explain that. States that the exact opposite is occurring in the United States, where President Donald Trump has masterminded yet another stunning success by crashing his nation's initial unemployment claims to a 50-year low. Economy is doing great under Trump. Doesn't get enough credit from the mainstream media, but this is where you can find out that sort of thing among other independent news sources. But is an astounding win for the American people, unrecognized by the Democratic Party, whose members in the U.S. House of Representatives, or Congress, yesterday, in less than 8 hours, launched a triple-headed, all-out investigative assault on Trump in their latest attempt to destroy him. And there's a link to a Politico article which shows how the Democrats are freaking out. You know, over the course of 8 hours, they had sort of a coordinated freak out on Trump to say, we need to keep investigating. You need to see how pissed off we are, and you need to be pissed off too. Even though the Mueller report cleared him of Russian collusion, they're determined to hang on to that and kind of fuel their followers with that type of BS. In whose hate-fueled rage against Trump came less than 10 hours after these Democrats learned that former President Obama's Citadel of Power base, Chicago, has been captured by Trump loyalist Lori Lightfoot, will become the mayor of this third largest city in the U.S. on May 20th, 2019. And there's a shot of future mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot. And each of these links, each of these hyperlinks, explains the sentence that they're talking about here. City of Chicago, Democratic Party stronghold, with Al Capone, Louis Farrakhan, Bill Ayers, and Bernadette Dorn from the Weather Underground, a former communist radical Marxist terrorist group that carried out some bombings in the late 1960s. Put Obama in, had Rahm Emanuel as the current mayor of Chicago. There's a fun little graphic, Chicago politics with Obama in a little gangster uniform. And then it goes through a ton of stuff, like where Lori Brown is from, the different law firms battling for the Democrats and the Republicans, the ones that are more loyal to President Trump, a judge that saved Lori Lightfoot, she's a lawyer, from being kicked out of the legal profession unfairly. There is a shot of the judge. And this was the woman, Toni Preckwinkle. She did a lot of favors to help get Obama elected, and she was supposed to be the new corrupt Democratic mayor of Chicago. There's a shot of Toni Preckwinkle there. And yet she stunningly lost. And a lot of this is related to the Jussie Smollett investigation. And you might wonder why the charges against Jussie Smollett were dropped. There's a lot of fanfare about that. It's like Jussie Smollett, this gay black actor on the show Empire, faked a hate crime, 2 o'clock in the morning on a cold day in Chicago, paid 2 big black muscly Nigerian guys to pretend to be white people in masks and MAGA hats and assault him a little bit, just a little itty-bitty scratch like he punched himself in the face, and put a noose around his neck and sprayed him with some bleach and said, "This is MAGA country." And then later on, that was all found to be false. The police investigated, found it false. Very unlikely story to happen. Even if there were some white racists, what would they be doing in Democrat-controlled Chicago at 2 o'clock in the morning outside a Subway shop deciding to attack this guy? And they have video footage of them buying the black full outfits and mask and the red hats that were supposedly MAGA hats and the noose at a costume store, and on and on and on. Well, one of the theories is that the FBI Child Trafficking, Child Prostitution Task Force is getting Jussie Smollett to turn state's evidence against pedophiles in Hollywood. So is it all going to play out like that? Who knows? But Special Agent Greg Wing, who is part of this FBI Child Trafficking Task Force, and there's a link to a video of him explaining who he is and what he does and other information, he is now on this Jussie Smollett case in one way or another, as that little document shows, and there are hyperlinks explaining all of that. So, this is an example of whatdoesitmean.com and what they can do and what they link to. So they're not just asking you to believe them, they are giving you a ton of information. And frankly, I don't know how they find a lot of this stuff. Some of these things, there are pictures that seem like they were taken by some sort of spy nearby with a cam, as opposed to things that would be commonly available on the internet or taken by the media. There's also articles about potential assassination attempts on Trump and how Trump's got them back by killing, for example, the leader of MI6, that's British Secret Service, sort of the British CIA, by killing his son on a private estate in some sort of funky automobile accident that they're not releasing any information on, and a bunch of other Trump, nationalism versus globalism, and other information like that. Plus, they are very pro-Christian, not hating other religions per se or hating other people unless they're acting bad, but very pro-Christian as well. And since Christianity helped found the West, and Christians at their best can be some of the nicest people in the world and can do some great things like ending the worldwide practice of slavery, including black slavery in America, which is something that they did, taking in people and feeding and clothing them as Jesus would have wanted to, like homeless people or people with gender confusion who have nowhere else to turn and are rejected by different groups. It doesn't matter. They'll say, look, as long as you're not trying to harm me or harm anybody here, come in, relax. We'll give you a sanctuary in our church and in our Christian domicile, in our Christian circles. And there's no other groups out there that generally do that. You won't get a bunch of liberal Democrats and atheists who go, yeah, sure, we'll help you out. Much more self-interested in that regard. So for great intel on Trump, great intel on nationalism versus globalism, what's going on in America in particular and around the world, whatdoesitmean.com can really help. And I do hope you check out that site and you find these excellently written articles with a ton of hyperlinks so you can verify, because you just might not believe some of this stuff. And they'll even go back, 50 years, for example, with the climate change hoax and the Green New Deal, where Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez says the world's going to end in 12 years if we don't do something. It's like, isn't that what Al Gore said in 2007? Well, it's 2019. That didn't happen. In fact, they've been saying it. The world's going to end in 10 years, every few years since 1969. And it tracks back to the original news articles on that, saying there's going to be global warming or global cooling or environmental collapse, or they just scare people every few years. They bring this up and say you all have to use less except for the super rich people, and that'll make you easier to control as we deindustrialize the West and take you down and put you under our thumb, because we are not in fact people who care about the environment and pollution. We focus on carbon dioxide, what we exhale, which isn't that much part of the air, which doesn't affect the weather. That's mostly how close the Earth is to the sun, and it's not a pollutant. Humans exhale it, other mammals do, plants inhale it, put out oxygen. That's the carbon cycle. It's not actually a bad thing for the planet, and it doesn't affect the Earth. So why do they choose that? Because it doesn't do anything for the environment, but it does do something to control us, while real environmental toxins like mercury and other poisons in the atmosphere and in our food and water and so on, those go unchecked by these same environmentalists, because They are watermelon green. That's green on the outside, communist red on the inside. And whatdoesitmean.com helps expose that and not just say it, that being hyperbolic, but actually hyperlink to ways you can confirm that. So tons of great stuff. And I do want people to check out whatdoesitmean.com. Not to believe everything. Use your head, think for yourself, just like everybody else. No two people on earth agree on everything, or we'd all be corporate clones and zombies. That might be the plan, but it's one we can resist. But I do hope it helps inform and empower you and makes you a better person to inform and empower others. And there you have it. So BK Black Krishna for manforwars.com. Feel free to comment, subscribe, get in touch, donate to the manforwars.com efforts below. There's PayPal and direct donation links. Polite patriotism is super important because online is fine, but we should also win the offline information war locally, making more polite, patriotic people where we live who can handle more as opposed to less for a better future. And there you have it. BK Black Krishna from manforwars.com. I'll put a link to that article below, and you can see many others there. And I hope it helps, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.